Good evening and welcome to another edition of the live Magpie Circle show. 12 sleeps to the big kickoff in the National League. We have to wait, obviously, till after the Football League and also the Premier League kickoff this coming weekend. We, of course, kick off with a trip to Barnet tonight. Okay, we're playing a little game. Top sevens, we've called it here on the Magpie Circle. Your predictions for the promotion playoff positions at the end of this coming National League season. So quite a few of you have already supplied those on our various social media channels. We'll be reading all of those out. For those of you dining in now, listening and watching, feel free to tap out your top seven. Any thoughts and any reasons behind that seven as well. We'll have a bit of fun with that. We'll see how everybody's tallies up. Of course, we'll be talking and assessing what we all think of the pre-season campaign so far in its entirety. Amazing how we can lose 2-0 to Derby, look good, and everybody is full of the joys of autumn rather than spring. And then, of course, we lose 3-2 to York, and the prophets of doom are out. I have got on record as saying, results in individual pre-season games do not bother me one jot from one season to the next, but we can debate and we can chat about that this evening. Hope you all had the chance to watch our big Kyle Cameron interview from last week. It's very good if you've not already seen it. Thank you to Kyle, thank you to the club for making that happen. If you've not had a chance to listen or watch it, please do so. It's very illuminating. Kyle speaks very well, and we have another big name being lined up for next week. A big name, a big first team name. I don't know whether you'll guess it on the basis, Kyle, was about your 14th choice last week when I asked you to say who you thought the big name might be. But it's a biggie. It's a biggie. Our thanks to the player and our thanks to the club again. I think you will be very interested on what this man has to say about the coming season. Before we go any further, on behalf of all Notts fans, I'd just like to send our personal condolences to all the family and friends of Kirk Ward. Kirk would be known to many Notts fans, a huge Notts County fan. Sadly, Kyle passed away last week. There was a nice tribute by the club on the scoreboard at the weekend, and it would be remiss of us not to send our condolences to Kirk's circle of family and friends. Okay, I better welcome our guest tonight, Chloe Page. Chloe, welcome again. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, no, always a delight to have you here. You represent the younger generation of Notts supporters who, by and large, have hardly seen us win so much as a teapot, whereas people of the Jurassic era like me can go down memory lane with Ian McCulloch when we're beating Nottingham Forest and goodness knows who else in the top flight. So, Chloe, younger generation, stick with it. We have already had quite a few bits and pieces coming in. Colin Metcalf says, in my opinion, all the new signings have improved the squad from last season. My worry is our defending still looks prone to basic errors. The new striker looks promising and will help Wootton. Paul Hawksworth. Evening, Paul. Great to meet you on Saturday and enjoyed our pre-match chat. The defending that followed is worthy of discussion, I think. Yeah, Paul came up to see me in the Pavis. Anyone wants to come and have a chat, you are always most welcome to come up and chat football. Mick Dundee. Kyle Cameron interview was excellent, as was Richard Brindley's. Yes, they were both very good. Gary Smithers has already come in, just put in one of our top seven. Now then, we've got a graphic with my top seven, Chloe's top seven, and my son Harry, who's our Magpie Circle producer, top seven. Before we put that up and try and defend all our various permutations, computations, and whatever else, I've had a few through on social media. I said we'll read them all out, so we will. Here goes. Here's a selection. And the first thing that comes out to me, because all these are kind of done totally independently, is that probably 6 of the same 7 teams feature, including kind of the wild card entries that I thought I put that one in and no one else will, and quite a lot of you have. So so Jamie Comrie goes for top down to bottom, Stockport, Chesterfield, Torquay, Notts in 4th, Wrexham, Solihull and Grimsby. Chris Barker goes again 2 for Stockport, Wrexham, Grimsby, Notts in 4th, Dagenham, Chesterfield and Bromley. Kevin Dusker Jr., it's 3 on the bounce for Stockport, Notts, Grimsby, Wrexham, Bromley, Chesterfield and Dagenham and Redbridge. Martin Wright goes for Notts in top spot, automatic, Stockport, Wrexham, Chesterfield, Boreham Wood, there's a new one, Grimsby and Halifax. Andy Easom, regular on the show, goes Stockport, Wrexham, Spireites, as in Chesterfield, Notts in 4th, Bromley, in 6th he's gone Southend, Southend to you and me, and 7th Neil Ardley and Solihull. First one mentioned there for Solihull, and I think he's gone down to 11th, unless he's tipping the bottom 4 for Eastleigh, Grimsby, Yeovil and Torquay. Dean Fisher goes for again Stockport, Notts, Wrexham, Grimsby, Dagenham, Chesterfield, Torquay. And he says that Stockport have 4 big players compared to 3 for us. Do hope I'm wrong, although I'd fancy us in the playoffs anyway. Adam Wright goes for Wrexham in top spot. Stockport, Notts, Chesterfield, Bromley, Solihull and Grimsby. Wendy Patrick, Notts in top spot. Stockport, Bromley, Wrexham, Grimsby, Halifax and Neil Ardley's Solihull. We've had one come through already on the chat from Gary Smithhurst. Stockport, Wrexham, Grimsby, Chesterfield, Notts, Southend, Dagenham and Redbridge. Paul Sills says evening, and Richard Hawksworth, is there anyone out there who thinks we are good enough to win the league? Right, so you get a flavour. A lot of the teams very similar. And there seems to be, in the small number of people, small poll of Notts fans, that Stockport would appear to be favourites for quite a lot of people. Wrexham considerably less so. And there does seem to be quite a few going with Bromley and the wild card in inverted commas, Dagenham and Redbridge. So Mick Dundee has just come up there. He's gone Notts top spot, Torquay, Chesterfield, Stockport, Dagenham, Grimsby and Boreham Wood. Okay, we will now pop up mine, Chloe's and Harry, my lad's producer. So this is our 3 sets of predictions. So you can see there, Chloe has gone with Stockport, Grimsby, Notts, Dagenham and Redbridge, Wrexham, Chesterfield and Bromley. I will read these out because I know some of you listen on the podcast, so this graphic is probably not of a great deal of use to many of you that listen to it in the car. My son Harry's prediction, he's gone for Wrexham, Chesterfield, Notts, Stockport, Bromley, Southend and Solihull Moors. I have gone Notts in top spot, but there is a big asterisk against that. I'm hedging me bets here. So there is a big asterisk, and I'll debate with you all the asterisk in a minute. Okay, so Notts County number 1, automatic, subject to a big asterisk. Wrexham in 2nd, Grimsby 3rd, Chesterfield in 4th, Bromley 5th, Stockport 6th, Dagenham and Redbridge in 7th. Okay, let's get on to Chloe. So you've been I'm just reading other people's thoughts already on those. Right, Chloe, let's go with you first. So, what leads you to the predictions that you've made? You have gone to win it, Stockport.
Yes.
Yes.
So I've
You've gone
had
for Notts in what position?
third, I believe.
Okay,
Third.
go on then. Just talk us through your rationale of that.
So Stockport, I just think they've got stars, and not just one, not just two. They've got three or four. I think they were ended up being the best away side last season, and it's never nice going there either. They've got a good following. It's always hard to go somewhere that has a good home support. Like we say, we speak about kind of Quigley and Paddy Madden, and it's people that you probably look at a couple of seasons ago and you think they won't be a National League player in 2-3 years, and yet here they are. And then they've also got that Rooney, who used to play for Barrow. I think he's a good player. Just got a kind of a couple of notes here, and then they had the third best defence last season. And if you stop goals going in, you've got more of a chance of winning. And I just think that with the momentum they had from last season and kind of their defence as well as their attack, I just think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I'm not looking forward to playing them, to be honest.
So you've got Notts in third.
Yes. And Grimsby in second.
Yeah,
so
Notts in third. Go on then.
I just think that you keep Carl Roberts fit, and I really think he's the difference this season. I've kind of watched him in the last two pre-season games, and he really is head and shoulders above other people that are on the pitch. I also think that that new guy we've signed up front, is it Mitchell? Is that his name? I thought he held the ball up really well, and which is what you need. Kind of bring other players into it, bring your Roberts into it, bring your Rodriguez. Only thing is that has kind of stopped me putting as top or anything like that is I think that we need to be careful on set pieces. We tend to concede a lot of goals from set pieces, and we've got players in defence that like to bring it forward, which is great to watch, but you need to watch your backs a little bit, just kind of losing it in midfield and then you're kind of on the back foot. And we've seen it. If you bring a big striker in like what York did, I think felt like it was coming all game and we never really controlled it. And then obviously he scored from that header, and they're the kind of things that we need to kind of lessen this season. But I still think we're in for a good season, hopefully.
That's very good, Chloe. It is an interesting one. Dean Wingate. I think Dean's exchanged a few messages. I believe there's a link to Nottingham, if I think rightly. But Dean's up in Grimsby, and he says, "I like the fact a lot of you guys think us at Grimsby are going to be up there. And is it for the fish and chips?" Well, Dean, get busy typing. Fill us in on what's going on at Cleethorpes, because the way Grimsby play, isn't it? Change of ownership. I mean, the reason I've gone for Grimsby to do well this year, because in my 7, I don't put Southend in there at all. Not because I'm anti-Southend. I think they've kind of had probably 3, 4, 5 seasons of just consecutive losing seasons, and I think sometimes it can be hard to turn around. I think the single most important asset Grimsby have got is Paul Hurst as the manager. Been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt, knows this division like the back of his hand, and I think he will have your group of players physically prepared and ready to go at it. And I think he knows what is needed to go through 46 games. So that was kind of my thought process with Grimsby. So, Dean, get whacking on the typewriter and tell us a little bit more about Grimsby and what you think up there. Okay. So I've got Notts top, but there is a big asterisk and there is a big caveat to that. I'm clearly looking at, glass half full. The glass half empty scenario, that does concern me, and I think several fans have raised it tonight. You brought this up as well, Chloe. Clearly under Ian, Notts are going to play a certain brand of entertaining, attacking football. But whichever way of football that you play, it is a means to an end, and that is to win football matches. And I remember Mark Stallard very succinctly put this towards the end of last season. Mark's a very good pundit. And he said, under Neil Ardley, wasn't great to watch towards the end. But in Neil's last, whatever it was, 15 or 16 games, we didn't score many goals, got a reasonable number of points. Under Ian, the overall number of games for which he was in charge produced virtually an identical set of points, but a lot more goals and a lot more expansive and open and attacking play. Neil left the club in 5th. Under Ian's leadership, we finished in 5th. I think a playoff at 5th again this season will be the absolute base level at which supporters would be happy. My concern is the way in which Ian looks to play this game, this philosophy. At the moment, you run the risk of us being open at the back, particularly, as you said, Chloe, from set pieces, from crosses into the box. There are certain formulaic types of approach that you need to get through games to win games. And I think at the minute, personally, I think Mark Ellis is potentially a big loss to the club in the way that we're looking to structure our defence at the minute, both from scoring perspective at one end from set pieces and defending at other. Now, I'm sure Ian has strategies and plans in place to be resilient. We showed it last season at Grimsby. But I am a little bit concerned that we will be a bit open. And, you know, we're going to need to keep quite a few clean sheets for us to be in top spot. Now, I think we largely have the personnel capable of being able to do that. I think in Sam Slocum, you've probably got, I'm not quite sure what some of the relegated clubs have got, certainly one of the best 3 goalkeepers in this division, and a goalkeeper is a hugely important part. I think it's pretty obvious we're going to play 3 at the back, wing backs pushing on. I don't attach any importance to results in pre-season, but the manner in which we've conceded a few goals in the last 2 home games, not away games, you would want those to be largely eradicated once we kick off at Barnet. I suspect certain teams, a lot of teams, will target us in a certain way. That is likely to include putting direct balls into the box and playing set pieces. If we look at some of our previous managers that have delivered championship and promotion seasons with Notts, Steve Cottrell, Sam Allardyce, Neil Warnock, Jimmy Cyril / Howard Wilkinson. Every single one of those managers, because they are the only ones that have delivered as a promotion or championship in the past 40 years at the club, every single one of those are meticulous, and I mean meticulous. I'm fortunate enough to know them. Meticulous set piece planning, defending, and attacking. You know, Neil massively prided himself on that. Sam Allardyce massively prided himself on that. We know what Steve Cottrell is like. And Howard and Jimmy, again, paid a huge amount of importance to set pieces. And just a little concern for me at the minute, is Ian clearly focuses on open, attacking, entertaining play, which is great. But I suspect Wrexham won't be trying to achieve promotion in the way that we are. I suspect Stockport won't be. I suspect Grimsby won't be. We're going to be doing it in a slightly different way, I think, which is to be applauded, commended. But I don't think it is an easy way. I don't think it is an easy way. We're going to need to win 23 matches in all probability, which is half. We are going to, and we had Carl Cameron on our show last week. You know, he was talking about 91, 92 points. Now, that don't give you a lot of margin of error in losing games. 6, 7 games, which means when you're on the road, you can't lose too many. You can't lose too many, and you've got to be resilient. I just want to see us be resilient. You know, we'll get an early indication, I'm sure, at Barnet and at Wrexham. And that for me is the big asterisk. Now, if we get that right, then I think we are well capable of winning this league. If we don't get that balance and blend right, then, you know, edge of playoffs could be like that, because you don't get the back end of it right. Doesn't matter how good you are at the front end. Doesn't matter how good you are. Chris B has also now just picked up from where I was going to come to, saying that we're hiring a set piece first team coach, aren't we? Well, it's actually a first team coach, but I think a lot of people have picked up on the job application that's been posted by the club on the website. And it's quite technical, but that's the modern world. And there is quite a focus and emphasis in the job description for first team coach about skills and ability at restarts, set pieces, defending, attacking. We've seen a big change in the way football departments operate in the last 2, 3, 4 years, becoming much more technically based. So Liverpool attracted a lot of debate, in inverted commas, when they appointed a specialist throwing coach. So all the dinosaurs and the geriatrics over a certain age, you know, hurl social media laughter at Liverpool for employing a throw-in coach. You know, great job if you can get it. Not much pressure on that one, you know, sort of thing. You get 12 throw-ins and you do all right for them, but you lose 4-0. All of these sorts of things. So it is, when you read the job description, it is quite easy to go, oh dear me, that's a bit Alan Partridge. But the modern world has evolved, and we're all looking for the small marginal gains. But I did nevertheless find it interesting that they focused quite a bit on restarts. Now, is that an acceptance from the ownership that we need to improve on that? Because this is not something that's just happened under Ian's tenure. Set pieces, conceding, delivering. The year we went down, we've not been great at it for several years. We've not been great at it for several years in terms of maximising the opportunity of a set piece to score a goal and minimising the opportunity when we're conceding a set piece to keep a clean sheet or to not concede a goal. And that's why that's my analogy with managers like Cottrell, Allardyce, Cyril, Wilkinson, Warnock, who all spent hours and hours and hours drilling into players how they want to defend, how they want to attack. And maybe we're guessing here that this first team coach vacancy is someone to drill right down and focus on that. A few other observations. Richard Hawksworth: effective football required, not attractive a football. David Skinner says, with Burchnall's style of play, we will win more matches than we lose, but it won't get us the title, which to me is the minimum for this club. Gary Smithard, watching IB's Knots is similar to Keegan's Newcastle. RM says there is a Ricardo Moniz feel about the way we are playing at the moment. We just need to be better at defending. And I think, in a way, RM, it's interesting how you position that. And I think this is the nub of my discussion point here. You say we just need to be better at defending. It's not just. It's actually very hard to be a lot better at defending. Because if it was easy, everybody would be keeping clean sheets, you know. And to me, the art of defending is every bit as important as the art of attacking. And I guess this debate, Chloe, you were at the game on Saturday. I guess this debate becomes a little more polarised because we see York playing against us. Big unit up front who caused us a few problems, and we don't want to read too much into one game, but I think you made the point. We're going to have to tighten up set piece wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just that. I think you look at this league, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think there's a real split between the quality of teams. And I think you can really tell the ones that are just coming up and kind of should be in that league. But you've got a lot of teams that are in and around that playoffs. But I kind of compare it, obviously, it's a bit of a weak comparison, but I kind of look at kind of the style that Liverpool play. And then I look at they get beat by the smaller clubs because they set up one way and that's kind of it. And they don't really know how to kind of break teams down when they put men behind the ball. And I'm kind of expecting a little bit of the same this season, especially away from home. People are just going to want to kind of maybe just give us the ball and just kind of have 10 men behind the ball and kind of make us break them down. And I think we've also got to look out for that. I think a lot of people expect the way that we're going to play. I'm quite positive about the attack and even the midfield, but it's going to be hard to break teams down. But I think we've got enough to do that. But like you say, I think the real, not maybe an issue, but what we've got to look at is these set pieces. Goals are going to come. We're going to concede goals. Everybody concedes goals. It's just kind of, you'd prefer to concede a worldie of a goal than kind of a defensive error as such. But the best way to do that is keep tight on set pieces and crosses, because that's where we've been hit the last few seasons. And like you say, it's very easy to say, but get some bodies in the box and kind of just defend like we did against Wrexham. We know we can defend like that. We've done it. I know we've kind of lost Ellis, but we've kept the backbone of the squad and we've kept most of the defence. We've brought in Kyle Cameron, who's also got some height, which is always an added advantage. But we know we can defend like that. We defended like that against, like you say, Wrexham, even the Dagenham game. But it's not gonna be easy. And when I was making my top 7 prediction, teams were in and out, teams were being swapped to last minute, and you can't kind of predict what's going to happen. But I think what we need to do is, if we can kind of get some draws away from home, wins, it's always a lot difficult from away from home. But if we can turn some losses into draws, I think we've got a good chance. I really would like to see us get second or third realistically. We've proved in the last couple of seasons it's really useful to get that home tie in the semi-final and not have to play in the quarter-final. It's a massive kind of release and relief, not having to play both of those games, because they're all going to be tough games in the playoffs. So if we can kind of get that second or third spot, I think we've got a good chance. But like I say, it's just going to be really difficult. And it's so hard to predict, having not seen anyone else play and only seen us play against kind of a championship side and then teams below us. So I think Solihull might be an interesting game, even though it's only a pre-season, but we'll kind of see how fit we are and the kind of system that we're going to play against someone that's our own level. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting first few games, definitely.
Yeah, but I think it's an interesting debate, and there's quite a lot of thoughts, observations coming in as well. NCFC Pie says, "Chill out, guys. We haven't even started the season, and fans are already putting us down. Come on, be positive. We'll walk the league and finish top with 132 points." Well, I've got us top, and according to Carl Cameron, we need to get about 91 to be able to do that. RM adds defending set pieces is one issue. It's also about defending counter attacks. John Collins says, "We have been poor at taking corners for years. It looks as though Matt Palmer is a designated player now, but we should be a threat from each corner." I tell you, the last manager for me who kind of really nailed set pieces and played what I might call a percentage football approach was Martin Allen, and Martin had Alan Sheehan in, brilliant dead ball taker, absolutely brilliant. Corners were brilliant, free kick delivery was brilliant, and his penalty against Oldham when we were actually going down, when he was stepping up to take it, was also equally brilliant. And I think Martin kind of recognised the percentages, if you like. Dean Gollin says, "Keep the ball for 90 minutes. You've got no worries about defending. NCFC Pie says, maybe I'm being hopeful. I genuinely think we need to be positive and can only build from the positives from the end of last season. I think the players we have brought in have all added something. Yeah, I mean, I definitely detect people are positive, but there is this reservation about our ability to defend. If we don't defend well, I'm not sure, no matter how well we play going forward, we will be where we all want to be. That for me is the critical point. That to me is the critical point. Hangforth says, if Notts are going to be playing an attacking style of play, it's going to be really important that the fans appreciate what they are trying to do and not get on their backs when it's not happening. Absolutely. But Hangforth, look, we all know what fans will judge this team on, this club on. That's results. And quite frankly, anyone who says otherwise is deluding themselves. You know, Ricardo Moniz was loved by fans. It's one of the most popular podcasts we ever did 3-4 years after he left. But we all kind of gloss over the fact in October, November, when there were a load of boos going out, when we couldn't defend very well. You know, so where we are at the moment in this league, our desire and our demands collectively as supporters is to be challenging minimum for the playoffs. And I detect a lot of people saying we're going to go for the title. Chris B says the first 3 games could be key. If we can get 2 wins from those, the next 6 are winnable. A bad start on those games become much more difficult. Shafi Tab says, I think we can understand that playing this kind of football means we will get counter-attacked a lot. And I don't think we have enough pace at the back to catch up with attacks. See, I think it's interesting because a lot of this debate, I think, has been sparked by the last 2 games. But let's focus a little bit on what's been going right, the positives. Let's talk a little about Kel Roberts, Chloe. I think everyone would say Kel Roberts was a cut above everybody else on the pitch on Saturday.
Absolutely, and yeah,
you know, it's York, but it's great to see him fit.
Yeah,
and it's great to see him doing the things he likes to do, and we like him to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, I think you've said it perfectly. He's just head and shoulders above everybody else on the pitch. And what excites me is he's bringing other people into it as well, where he's getting himself in a good position, not to only shoot, but to kind of set other people up. And as long as people are kind of reading where he's at and training with him every day, it's only going to improve his game and everybody else's. The only thing is keeping him fit. I think we said it in the last one against Derby, my heart dropped as soon as he started limping around. And it's going to be like that all season. As soon as he gets a little knock, you're just going to have to hold your breath for a couple of moments. But I think he's vitally important. We did realistically, I think, well last season, and that was without him. You bring kind of a star player in like that. It's like having a brand new signing. He's cost us nothing apart from his wages last season. So you talk about kind of Mullin and everyone signing for everyone else in the league, and Stockport signing players and Wrexham signing players and whoever else you want to talk about. But you've got to remember we've got a star player already here. That it's kind of like having a brand new player. He's only been kind of getting his fitness back up from last season. He's had it pretty much a full pre-season now, and he's going to be the one to look out for. You've also got to remember we've got Rodriguez. Again, if he can start the season like he finished the last one, you've got 2 quality players there already. Brings Wootton into the game as well. I can't fault him how many goals he scores, but I don't think we can flog him like we did last season. I think there's a lot of pressure on him. I look at losing Dennis and Thomas, and we talk about how many goals that took out of our side kind of straight away. And then you're only kind of looking at Wootton on his own. This is before Rodriguez started scoring. This debate came around that we've now only got one player really that's scoring a number of goals rather than just maybe 3, 4, 5 in midfield. But now you've got Wootton, he's bringing you goals. I'd like to see him get 20 this season. He's been scratching 20 for the past 2 seasons. I think he's got 18, then 19. It'd be great to see him past that 20 mark. I think that between Roberts and Rodriguez, you keep them fit all season. 30 between them, I'm kind of hoping for around that mark. A couple of people chipping in for midfield, hopefully getting better at set pieces, not only defensively, but and attacking as well. We've got a couple of taller players now. I'd like to see them get on the end of some crosses in from the box. Cameron likes to get forward, and he's not shy of shooting either, I noticed, against York and Derby, to be fair. So I think we're kind of picking them goals back up from where they dropped off. But I think Roberts, you keep him fit and he is the difference. Whether you start him every game or whether he comes on, he's a threat no matter what time in the game. And he's your match winner for me, to be honest.
Okay, sorry, I was reading all the questions. I was listening, Chloe. Don't worry, don't worry. I think that we'll try and pick off questions as best we can. So Ian Burchnall, the fan manager, obviously, if it was the manager, he wouldn't be asking this question. How do you see Ruben fitting into the team with Cal? Well, my understanding, which may or may not be nothing at all, but the informed opinion appears to be that Kyle would be the fulcrum in attack, and then sat just behind him with relatively free roles would be Kel Roberts and Ruben Rodriguez to do their stuff, to be creative, to drop in, to drop out. So that's kind of the view on the street, so to speak, of how potentially Ian could accommodate those players. It is interesting. A lot of people have spoke about we need a 20 goal a season man. Previous debates we've had with Lee and all the rest of it is, if there's a 20 goal a season man out there, he'd be expecting to start. And then it becomes very difficult to start Kyle, your 20 goal a season man, Kel Roberts and Ruben Rodriguez. So I think that potentially the manager sees with Wootton, Roberts and Rodriguez plenty of goals, and I wouldn't, for what it's worth, disagree with him. I think there are plenty of goals with those players, and you've then got Kairo Mitchell in the background pushing for a place, working hard, and clearly is more of a like for like replacement for Kyle Wootton than the other two. But nevertheless, you could then go, if Kyle or Ruben weren't about, you could go with two big men potentially. So you've got, depending on opposition, you've got, I think, there plenty of permutations moving forward to score goals. John Collins says Mark Ellis was a key player for us at the end of last season, not replaced him with an equivalent. Interesting, I thought on Saturday that I think most people would be viewing Connell Rawlinson as the central axis of the three at the back, but Ian did start Kyle Cameron in the middle of the three, so that would suggest he wants to take a look at Cal in that role as well, and clearly that is what pre-season is all about. It's trying players in slightly different positions and getting an understanding for those players to play in slightly different positions if and when the situation arises. Let's just talk a little bit now about some of our opposition, Chloe. So now I think I had Wrexham. I can't even. Well, I tell you what. Let's talk one club that's caused quite a bit of debate among fans. Yet virtually all of these top sevens, they have the club in it, which I think is interesting. I kind of think they're going to be the club that everyone likes to have a prod at. And I'm talking Chesterfield. Yeah. The way they did furlough, the way they've spent cash, etc., etc. But undeniably, James Rowe's run of form since taking over has been extremely impressive. And I'm guessing that is why Chesterfield figure in most people's top seven. No one's got them down for top spot. And there's also been quite a bit of transfer activity between the clubs. hasn't there? I mean, I certainly think that game against Chesterfield at the end of last season, Chloe, is one of the most eventful, even allowing for the fact it's the first time we're back in the ground for I don't know how long because of COVID. But crikey, that was a great atmosphere. Just think what it'll be like when Chesterfield come here this year, when their fans are in.
It's always a great fixture, home or away, and it's one of them. It's kind of our local derby as such. I know a lot of people are like, we're not rivals, but they are the closest to us in the league, so it's always going to be a good atmosphere. There's always going to be a lot of fans travelling home and away, and like you say, I think they're one of them clubs that nobody tends to like. They've done a lot of things that have been questionable, if you want to put it that way, within the last couple of seasons. But that can kind of work in their favour. They get under people's skin. I've had them down. I was looking earlier at their defence last season, and they were pretty solid defensively, but also score a good amount of goals. And they were the fifth best away side. And we were saying earlier how important playing well away is. Not even playing well, grafting for that point, for them 3 points. It's vitally important. And they're not a nice side to play, whether you're home or away. They have a good home crowd as well. And it's, like I said earlier, it's never nice playing against a lot of kind of loud fans. But it can also go the other way and they kind of rile people up and then you end up getting a result out of them. But they're never easy to play against. We had, I remember last season we played away. Obviously, I was watching it on the stream and we scored them late goals against them. And it's never an easy place to go, never an easy team to play against. And I've always got them in and around them kind of playoff spots. I don't see them getting a top three, possibly. I don't think they've kind of got that maybe star quality that you need to kind of pip everyone else to just kind of pull away. But they're definitely a team that you've got to look out for every season. They're in and around, and nobody likes going there. No one likes playing them, but I've got them down as well as not only just away. They've got the fourth highest win ratio of last season as well, and the highest but also the highest number of losses in the top 10. So that's why I kind of don't have them in that top three, because I don't think they're consistent enough and getting the results. And maybe they drop a lot of points kind of late on as well, but definitely in and around that top 7. But it's so difficult to say. I had a lot of teams that kind of just missed out on my top 7 that could easily replace Chesterfield. But yeah, definitely another one to watch out for.
Now then, I'm just getting some info through here. I have no reason to disbelieve it, but I wasn't aware of it. Let's just talk a little bit about Wrexham, because clearly they are the one creating the biggest waves in the National League, with the Hollywood ownership takeover, getting some very talented people to go there who you would never have thought. Les Reed, for instance, dropping into the National League, and I certainly wouldn't have thought Phil Parkinson would have dropped into the National League either, their manager. According to Gary Smithhurst, Wrexham have sold 7,000 season tickets, which, if that's correct, and I don't know whether they have heavily discounted juvenile tickets or not, but clearly it is capturing the imagination of the Wrexham public, as it has every right to do. I guess a little bit of a parallel was Munto and Notts when we were in League Two, and we're hoovering things up that you think we have no right to be taking. Slightly more polarised, clearly, because of Sven with Munto, but I think that there is a similar principle to Wrexham. Now, listeners of the show, watchers of the show will know that, as far as I'm concerned, the most important person at any football club is hardly ever a player on the pitch. So apologies for that, Kel, and anyone else on the pitch for Notts. For me, it's always about the manager. And if you have a supremely talented man, the manager is your star man. The manager is your star man. And I think in Phil Parkinson, Wrexham have appointed a winner. Multiple promotions, done very well. I guess the slight question mark would be he is now operating in a shop window where nothing less than the title will do. We talk about expectation on Notts. I would argue that the expectation on Wrexham is actually significantly higher than Notts, particularly if they've got 7,000. Right, I knew this would come in. Right, Gary Smithers, apologies, Paul. Demand for 7k, but capped at 5,200. Dale Pikett, Paul, it's capped at 5,000. Okay, so they've sold 5,000, right? It's a lot. Okay, it will be lively, won't it, when we're there on is it Bank Holiday Monday evening in North Wales? Crikey, that will be like a proper league game. No, it is, irrespective of total number of season ticket sales, it's captured the public imagination. And clearly the signing of Mullin, other signings as well, tells you they're going for it. For me, Parkinson is someone that will have done his homework extensively. But I think the caveat to Wrexham, and why I think Notts can finish above Wrexham, subject to being defensively resilient and organised, set pieces, defending, both boxes. The reason I think Notts can finish above Wrexham is I think we've got players, people like Cameron, Nemani, players that have won, have done very well in this division last year. It's going to be a little bit new to Mullin. Yeah, clearly a bit like Cal, he's going to get kicked from pillar to post. Welcome to the National League. And I think Wrexham will either come out the traps flying, or they'll find it difficult for a bit. But there can be no denying that the money from Hollywood, the huge interest in Wrexham, the season ticket holders, it's going to create a real stir among the National League. And it's a bit like, I think, when Notts first came down. It's about how the manager and the players cope and are mentally resilient with the pressures that will be put on them. Because, let's be honest, Notts are not the favourites to get promoted this year. Wrexham are, and Stockport second.
Absolutely. And it's one of them, like you say, it's going to go one of two ways. And I'm kind of leaning towards them struggling slightly. I've still got them in my top 7. I'm not going to be kind of looking at that and going, oh no, they're going to finish mid-table, because I just can't see that happening. But they're either, like you say, going to come out the traps flying, and they're going to kind of do a Torquay and by Christmas or just afterwards look like they're head and shoulders above everyone else, maybe Stockport as well. But you're asking a lot from Mullin. I think they've got a couple of other decent players. I know they lost their captain, which is never ideal. We've kind of gone through losing captains before, and there's a big hole that needs to be filled. I think obviously we've lost Doyle, but hopefully kind of Cameron can step into that role comfortably. But they've got that Mullin, and there's a lot on his shoulders. Everybody's looking at him saying, we all wanted him. Everybody came out and said, how have you managed to get him? Because he did so well last season. But that's a lot of pressure on someone that is dropping down a league to perform that well again. I think he got 32 in 46, which to do that kind of season in, season out, you've got to be some player to be able to keep doing that. And interestingly, there's going to be fans watching him. Is there less pressure when there's fans not there? It's difficult to see, and we're only going to be able to find out by watching him and seeing how he does. And I've got no doubt they'll still be up there, but I think there's, like you say, huge pressure, and it's whether they can rise to that or whether it comes too much. But I've got no doubt whether, if something's not working, they'll get their wallets out again, and they'll go, right, well, this isn't working, we'll bring someone else in. And that's the big thing with them. Are they willing to keep putting money into it if it's not working? But it's going to be very interesting again. But I think there's a lot of teams that it's just so really hard to predict. But we always talk about first 10 games, and they are vitally important. But you also see teams coming in, because it is so tight all season, coming in the last, 15 games, and they come out of nowhere. I think Chesterfield ended up quite far down the league towards kind of Christmas time, and then out of nowhere they're fighting for 7th and 6th. So, but with Wrexham, I think there's a lot of pressure, and it's whether they can rise to it or not.
Moddy Moby says sales were capped at 5,200 for season ticket holders to make sure that all of them are guaranteed a seat for the first 2 games of the season, while work is still underway to revamp one of the stands. Ian Burchnall says, will be interesting to see how Wrexham cope with breaking teams down when they come and park the bus. I think Notts have better options, this team, to break teams down. Ian Burchnall also adds, did you see Jake Reeves got MOM and the winning goal on Saturday for Stevenage? NCFC Pie, like I've said previously, Notts just need an averagely good season. Good start, no COVID issues, no games continuously postponed, fans in the ground, and no reason we can't be right up there. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what averagely good means. Average doesn't tend to cut it. If the average of the last 2 seasons has been we haven't gone up, but I kind of know the point you're making. I think in a way there's quite a big expectation this year, albeit an understanding and an acceptance that this is probably the hardest of the 3 years that we have been in the National League for us to get out of it because of the strength of some of the opposition. Stockport would be the other big one. Yeah, Stockport would be the other big one. Stockport, Wrexham and Notts are by and large, dangerous to say it, but viewed as the big 3 almost. Stockport, I think most people thought they would make it through to the playoff final. They didn't. I know from my time at Leicester, losing a playoff is a killer. It's very, it takes its toll on you. That for me is why I think I've put them a little bit further down the pecking order behind Notts and Wrexham, because I think it was going to be hard for them to come back from that, because there is inevitably a sense of we should be in the Football League now. You know, oh, we'd have beaten Hartlepool, whatever, or we'd have beaten Torquay in the final. What's your take on Stockport? Clearly, they've gone for a not dissimilar model in the sense that they've gone for the 20-25 goal a season man, and they're splashing the cash to do that with a striker in Madden who quite clearly could still cut it in the Football League.
Absolutely. I've got them top, but again, it's one of them. Can they rise to the pressure? Because they've got pressure on them. I think, like you say, us 3 clubs have got huge pressure, and not only from the fans, but from the media of kind of who's expected to go up, who's expected to be fighting. I've got them up there purely for the quality of the players that they've already got at the club, as well as what they've bought in. I totally agree with how much a playoff takes it out of you. We've seen it at Notts. Necessarily might not have the best start to the season, kind of after the disappointment of last season. We've seen it happen down here numerous times. We've lost a couple of playoffs now, but we've still managed to kind of maybe not better, but kind of equal what we got the season before. So I don't think it'll take too much toll on them, especially after what they've bought in as well as what they've already got. I've got them top. Like I say, I just think they've got that edge over what other people have got. It's not just having one star player, it's having a team full of very good players, and keeping the kind of same squad as they did last season. It's always, again, a hard place to go. And I just think they've got depth. They had a really good away side last season, which again is vitally important, as well as home. And they tend to draw a lot, which is kind of, I think that if you can draw a lot of games, obviously you've got to get the wins behind your belt, but you go away and draw a lot of your games. Everybody says that you win your home games and draw your away. It's easy enough to say that, but you're giving yourself a very good chance, and turning some of them losses into draws is what tips you to be a top side. And I just think they've got it. And I think maybe they might not come out of the traps flying, but it's a long season, and we've seen that. I was saying earlier about Chesterfield, they come out of nowhere, and I don't think there's going to be a team that kind of is like 10, 15 points above anybody else. But I just think that all season long, they've got enough to claim that top spot, be in that top 3 consistently and not really drop out of it. But again, it's going to be a fight, but we'll see how that playoff loss does kind of how they handle that loss, and how they come into the season and how their new players kind of add to what they've already got. Because when you've got a lot of players that are very good and these stars and whatever you want to call them, it's difficult to see how they're all going to fit together. But if they can find a position for them all, and depth is really important, if they've got people that can come off the bench and kind of do a job, or they've got match winners on the bench, it's always vital to have them kind of players. I just think squad wise and the depth that they've got is going to be very hard to compete with, especially kind of over the months where you start playing your Saturdays and your Tuesdays. And if you've got that rotation, you're gonna do better than the people that are flogging the same people every week and week in the week out. So I've definitely got them up there.
Let's just turn the spotlight on kind of more unfancied teams, or certainly what we focus mainly on league clubs here, or clubs that have spent the vast majority of their existence in the Football League and currently find themselves in the National League. Bromley. Andy Woodman came in, I think it was a virtually identical time to when Ian came in for Notts, and got Bromley into the playoffs. Andy reminds me a little bit, he's kind of like a poor man's Neil Warnock. You know, he is going to put out a team that knows every single player is drilled into exactly what their role is going to be. They've still got the lad Bush, who I think does well for them at the heart of the defence. And, you know, for many people, up until we see what Paul Mullin does, Michael Cheek up front, who would be as effective a striker, leader of the line and goal scorer for virtually all of the clubs in the National League. I think he's brought back one player from Crystal Palace or from Brighton, I think, who's very highly rated as well. You know exactly what you will get from them. I mean, I've got them in my top 7, and interestingly, quite a few other people have. Bromley, they beat us towards the end of right at the back end of the season, didn't they?
Yeah, and I tend to, when I'm looking at the people that I'm kind of going to put in my top 7, how well they finished last season. Because if you finish well last season, you kind of take playoffs and that out of it, just kind of in the league games, how well they were playing, and they were difficult to play against. We went there not really needing a result or anything, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it was a very difficult game for us. And then I kind of look at that they had a very good away kind of record last season, 3rd best. I keep going on about how important away games are, but obviously your home games are important. If you lose all your home games, you're not going to get anywhere. But them away ones for me is what tips you to get in that top 7. And if you can kind of pull out some results, some wins, some draws, and it's going to get you in there. I also looked at their pre-season, which I know it's difficult to look at pre-season because you play teams that aren't in your league and not everyone's match fit, and you kind of rotate in the squad. But they've got 3 wins under their belts in their last 3 pre-season games. It's only going to help. Maybe it kind of papers over the cracks a little bit when you do kind of beat all of these teams and you think you're the next best thing since sliced bread. But it can only help having 3 wins under your belt, going in with confidence. So again, we can talk about 3 or 4 teams. People like Solihull just missed out of my top 7, and they're also going to be a difficult team. I think Neil Ardie will have them well drilled, and he knows how to get playoffs. I just think Bromley looked more kind of exciting to watch at the end of last season. But again, it's another one that I've got in there, and they've got to be one to watch. But I could say that about numerous teams really at the minute.
Yeah, in my selection, I kind of wanted to go for a bit of a wild card, because each of the years that we've been in the National League, there has been a wild card, you know, and the wild card last year was Sutton winning it. And I thought, well, basically no one else will even mention these. Yet, quite interestingly, quite a few people have put this team in their top 7, and in their top 7 others, and that's Dagenham and Redbridge. And again, because the way I've always viewed a football club, you know, I'm a big fan of Darryl McMahon. He actually spent a short time on loan as a Notts County many moons ago. Did a very good job at Ebbsfleet, we went to at the start of one of the seasons, didn't we? Where you walk over from the railway station across the big bridge into the ground, and he got them into the. I think he got them up out of the National League South and got them into the main National League playoffs. So he's used to getting a team over a 46-game campaign into playoffs, and so I put Dagenham in my top 7, as several other have. They finished extremely well last season. They finished extremely well, and for me, there will be no pressure on Dagenham. You know, Wrexham, all the rest of it, they will go under the radar. They have been a league club, not the greatest place to go and play, is it? If I remember right, had a good pie and mash there with your granddad. I remember we went there a couple of years ago. Very good pie and mash, pie and liquor. I wonder if they could be a bit of a wild card this year. Because one thing I do think, and we kind of don't talk about it much, and we kind of gloss over it a little bit, every point that all teams earn this year is going to be a lot more hard-earned than it was last year, because we had no relegation. So you are looking at half of the teams we were playing in the second half of last season with nothing to play for. And there's a difference playing Kings Lynn, whoever else didn't have anything to play for, Aldershot, when they can't get relegated. But then when you're playing at Kings Lynn and they need 3 points to stop dropping back down, it's harder. Now, that doesn't adversely disaffect Notts. But what it does mean is all of your games are proportionately harder. All of your games are going to be proportionately harder, because we're back to a conventional season where every club has everything to play for all of the time until mathematically they're down or not down or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And we go back to kind of having Dagenham in there. And again, I look at how they finished last season and it was very strong. I think they've got a team full of well-rounded, experienced, good players. I think it's very much a team game, and it's all right having one star or whoever. And if they get injured or they don't perform, you've got to look at everyone else. And I think they've got that experience, and their manager and how they were playing last season. I think they played, was it Wrexham, one of their last games? And I remember kind of flicking through it and being like, they had nothing to play for, really. They couldn't make playoffs at the time, and they more than matched them. And that kind of shows you everything. They're willing to fight to the last minute, whether it's mathematically possible or not. And I kind of see that as long as you've got that kind of spirit and the drive and the fight to keep going throughout every game, you're giving yourself a very good chance. And experience is always important, especially in this league. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to have some youngsters in there. We've got people like Cowan, who are a bit younger, have got fresher legs, but experience. You kind of look at Doyen and look how well he's done for us. If you've got a team full of people with experience of fight, you're going to give yourself an opportunity. But I completely agree, again, about how difficult it's going to be for especially the last kind of after Christmas, talking after kind of February time, where people are like, right, we need to start picking up some points or we're in relegation here. And they're the teams that you kind of look at on your fixture list and go, we should be beating them. That should be a 3 points kind of in the bag. We shouldn't have anything to worry about. And they're the teams that you kind of like come away with not what you expected. So no games are easy, and no games you can look at like that's a 3 points, we can win that. If you go into every game with the same fight, whether it's the same 11 or a different 11, it's very important that everybody, again, like you were saying, the Sutton players knows their role, whether they're coming in the last 15 minutes, whether they're getting rotated every other game. Everyone needs to know their role and how important it is to fight, no matter who your opposition is, no matter if it's a cold, wet Tuesday night or whether it's a nice Saturday kind of midday fixture, that every game you have to fight for. And no matter who you're playing, as long as you've got that kind of energy throughout the game and the willing to keep going, kind of, you've seen how many times teams win something in the last minute because someone switches off, and it's vital to keep going until that whistle goes. And that, if the teams that can do that, gives themselves a very good chance.
Duncan Comrie says everyone is bigging up Stockport and Wrexham, but when was the last time the favourites were promoted out this league? Be positive, think positive, come on, you pies, says Duncan. Yeah, Absolutely. You know, we've had to try and cope with that pressure in the first two seasons as well, haven't we? And we have seen Barrow win the league, and we have seen Sutton win the league. I guess the consequence of that, and those clubs maintaining their place in the Football League, is that now we have a division that is stacked with clubs who, like ourselves, would feel we're kind of, on loan to the Football League. On loan to the National League, and that of course brings with it challenges. And I agree with you, Duncan, that Wrexham will have to cope with everything that we as Notts have done in the last two seasons, and ultimately were not successful in being able to deliver a return back to the national, back to the Football League. I'm sure there's plenty more we could debate. There's 12 days still to go. No friendly this week. The Tamworth one's been called off. Some debate about whether we're going to be allowed in at Solihull on Saturday. Still waiting for news on that, Chloe?
Yeah, I think there's a kind of debate going on with kind of safety officers and the rest of it. At the moment, there's no tickets. The best thing to do is kind of keep an eye. I'm sure Notts will keep an update if anything changes, or even if it doesn't, I expect there'll be an update later on in the week. But whether we're there or not, it's going to be interesting to see how we do. It's the first one we've played kind of a similar match team. Obviously, we're not going to be going full throttle, so nobody wants to come out with injuries the week before the season. But just keep an eye out on kind of social media pages, because I'm sure there'll be an announcement. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the result, whether we're there or not.
And a question from Dale Pikett. Anyone got any news on tickets for the Barnet match? I'm sure if anyone's got any news, it will be you, but you might not have anything yet, because I've not seen anything posted on the club's site. Although I believe it's it's a decent ground at Barnet, so I would imagine that everybody from Notts who wants to go is going to be able to get in. I wouldn't worry too much about not being able to get in, but I don't think we've had any specific information yet.
No, I think we're still in talks with how we're going to handle the tickets and kind of etc. So I think it's just finalising that. We've got just over a week, to say 12 days. So again, I imagine that's coming within the next few days. I don't imagine it'll be a last minute thing. I assume they're already in talks. I think we'll be given a big allocation. Like you say, it's got quite a decent sized ground, and we've always had an allocation there before that's been quite excessive. And then whether you can pay on the gate, I'm sure that again we'll be kind of getting an update. I'd expect it this week. I can't tell you exact figures because I don't know myself. I don't know the ins and outs. But again, keep an eye out. We're quite good with stuff like that and kind of telling our supporters as soon as we know anything. So again, keep your notifications on, and I'm sure you'll be hearing an update soon.
Yeah, and of course, I think it will be a very big following at Barnet. It will, of course, be the first away game league fixture that we can travel to since COVID. Quick question: who can answer it the quickest? When was the last away game we played that fans were in? So you can come up with it first. I'm not exactly sure the answer. I've just thrown it out there. I'm not exactly sure myself.
I think I do know, but I'll see.
Okay, we'll give anyone within 30 seconds. If not, Chloe, you can give the answer. On the basis I'm not sure I can. I would have been there, but I can't.
I think I can. I think I can.
Right, Dean Gollin has gone Barrow away. Is he correct?
That's what I thought so as well. I thought it was Barrow the first because I was there.
Stockport. I'm trying to. Stockport didn't
get to Stockport, no, because
Grandad was going to run a special train on the way back, and that's why I remember that. And it got called off, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was on that Tuesday night, so it was Barrow. Yeah.
Barrow, what a great day out that was. Yes.
Yeah. It's a good way to finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dale Pikett's chipped in with Barrow. We think it's Barrow. To be able to travel to Barrow again, because it means we'll be in the Football League. That's where we've got to, but never mind. Look, I mean, we've spoken about Wrexham's appetite and all the rest of it. Let us not forget over 3,200 season tickets for Notts, which, when you consider we're now in our third season in the National League, that is a phenomenal indicator and guidance to the appetite and the optimism that we have for our football club. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's down to everyone at the club that's kind of kept the season ticket prices at quite a good level, especially for renewals, and having that early bird sale before that really helped. And then you've also got to look at the type of football we're playing, and what Ian Burchnall's got us playing. It's exciting football, and that's what people want to go and see. They want to be able to get off their seats and look forward to a game. So I think there's kind of abundance of different reasons why season tickets are up there, as well as coming back from COVID and people just wanting to get back and watch some football. But yeah, I'd also say it's definitely down to what we've the type of football we've been playing. But it was really nice to kind of work in the ticket office over that period of time. It was really positive, and as much as it's kind of a bit hard work and it was kind of stressful for a few days, especially with the playoff games as well, but it was a really good environment to be in, and I was glad it was very busy, to be honest. It's exactly what everyone wants to see at the club, and I look forward to kind of finally being down at Meadow Lane and in the away ends, and I'm sure I'll see everyone there.
Moddy Moby, I think we can try and tidy this one up as well. Is the club still going to carry on the live streaming? My understanding, Chloe, is that there is legislation in place which means Notts can't stream matches on conventional. There's like they call it a blackout period to protect the integrity of Saturday afternoon football. So my understanding is the answer is no. Chloe, is that basically right?
So the information that I've been told is it's not a definite no. We're looking into kind of what the rules are around, like exactly like you've said, because it stops people coming down on a Saturday and going to away games. So I think we're looking into kind of if we can do that and put it on for away games, because I know we had that when we was in the league, we had that kind of Magpie player I follow or whatever it was called for some of the away games, but that's completely different in the National League. So as of right now, there's not going to be a stream, but I think they are going to look into whether that is a possibility or not. But at the moment, no, there's not going to be one.
I think the challenge there, and if I remember back, and I'm going back 15, 20 years when I was a director at Leicester, and we used to look at these, we would call them beanbacks in those days. As a rule of thumb, in that era, if you sold your entire away allocation of tickets, the home club had the capacity to be able to say to Leicester, Notts County as the away club, yes, you can have a beanbag, but you can only do that if you've sold all your tickets, because clearly the home club wants to protect its revenue stream. And if Notts had as an away stream, that can impact on the number of people that will be prepared to travel and pay quite a bit of money to go to an away game. So if it costs you 60 quid, for instance, to go to Barrow clearly don't want to live stream to Notts unless Notts have sold all their tickets. If you can watch it on a stream and save yourself 50 quid, that is clearly going to influence some people in their decision making, which adversely affects the home club, so you wouldn't be able to do it. So we, in those days, were able to do it on an ad hoc basis if you'd sold all your away tickets. I'm not even sure that exclusion works anymore. My own feeling is that it would be quite difficult to have streams, because if it's an away stream, Notts would then be responsible for putting TV cameras in and all the rest of it. I think it's unlikely, but clearly, as you just said, Chloe, the club is investigating ways in which possibly it could. Gary Smithhurst, who is the player interview, Paul? Not going to tell you. But it's a biggie. More will be revealed nearer the time. We're planning to speak to him later this week, and then we are planning to broadcast that next week in the immediate countdown to the trip to Barnet. And I love this. Someone earlier said Jim O'Brien. No. Gary Smithhurst, Carl Wharton. No. I'll leave it at that. It's a biggie. I'm sure you're narrowing the field down, but we will give you more information on that later on this week. Chloe, thank you very much indeed for tonight. Thank you all. Lots of questions, lots of observations. Thank you for your top sevens this evening. I am sure we're all going to be doing all sorts of computations, permutations in the countdown to the season. And after the first game at Barnet, we'll either have us winning the league with 132 points, aka NCFC pie, or we'll all be redoing it and saying we'll be halfway. Let's just try and keep a level head with all of these things, and that's very difficult. As a supporter of a football club, that is not what you do. Just ask Nottingham Forest after the 30th minute and the 96th, and we as Notts fans are exactly the same. Football fans up and down the country are exactly the same. Dean Gollin, Ruben, no, I'm not going to give you any more clues. Thank you very much indeed for this evening. Thank you again, Chloe, and we look forward to catching up with everyone soon.